flow in an ecosystem. How do energy flow in an ecosystem? Energy flow is defined as a transfer of energy from one organism to the next through feeding relationship, also called the trophic levels. You can say it's a transfer of energy from one organism to the next through trophic levels, or the movement of energy across the trophic levels. What is a trophic level, therefore? These are the feeding levels that the energy must pass through in the ecosystem. The energy from the sun is trapped by the green plant leaf processes, producing chemical energy in the form of ATP and food in the form of carbohydrate. We can then now modify the carbohydrate to things like lipids, protein, vitamins, and others. Green plants are for that reason called producers and occupy the first trophic level. Why are they called producers? They are the ones that are able to convert sunlight energy into forms that can be utilized by the next trophic levels. Green plants are fed on by herbivores. For that reason, the green plants are referred to as primary producers, as they occupy the first trophic level. The second trophic level is occupied by primary consumers. The primary consumers. So the herbivores in this case are the primary consumers. Now, the next area we are going to is defining carnivorous, defining tertiary consumers, defining quaternary consumers as a group of basically carnivorous. How so? Now, herbivores are consumed by carnivores. A good example of a carnivore is a lion, cheetah, and leopard. Because they are feeding on a herbivore, they are termed as secondary consumer. The primary consumer feeds on producers or primary producers. The secondary consumers will feed on the primary consumer on the other hand. Then the tertiary consumer will feed on the secondary consumer. And finally, the quaternary consumer feeds on tertiary consumer. So in other words, it comes from producers to primary consumers, secondary consumers, then we go to tertiary consumer, and finally quaternary consumers. Now, what are the examples of tertiary consumers? Leopard, shark in aquatic system. What are the examples of quaternary consumers? These are mostly scavengers. The dead body of a primary, secondary, and tertiary consumers and leftovers of predators are eaten by scavengers, mostly known as quaternary consumer. A good example is the vulture. When organisms, that is plant and animals, die, they decompose. When organisms, such as plant and animal, die, they decompose. What makes them decompose? Fungi and bacteria, which are saprophytic, will be feeding on them. In the process, as they break them down, they are decomposing them. In the process, they release minerals. These organisms, that is the saprophyte organism, are collectively called decomposers and detritivores. Why? Because they